on until after you hear the presentation, by the way. First of all, I got to apologize for the Don Johnson look today. I'm flying to Chicago tonight, and I packed my razor, and I forgot to take it out this morning. So it's, I know these kids don't know who the heck Don Johnson is. Trust me. There we go. About a year and a half ago, East Alton Wood River High School Board of Education decided to try their hand at establishing a foundation. The foundation, the vision of the foundation was to raise funds for those extraordinary and other sorts of needs and desires that we had for kids that were outside of the normal funding process, outside of the normal budget. So the board looked at some ideas from around other foundations. We got some help from Roxana, the school district, which we were grateful for. And about a year ago, we finally started to put it together. And so what I would like to talk to you about is a little bit about the EAWR Foundation, where we are today, kind of the progress we've made. And then I'm going to also put our shameless plug in. If I could get our two boys to help me out here, pass out these brochures, please, for foundation giving. I kind of brought this up the last time I was here about a month ago, a little bit when I was talking about the Hall of Fame. Just make sure everybody gets one, please. If you have any left over, you can set it down my slot. Would you like this, sir? Our foundation board thank you, Brad. We're invited to come and meet and to talk about various ideas that they had for fundraising. Aaron Phillips back there is one of our foundation board members. We established the board with the goal in mind of not having any school board members on it. I am on it as well as our principal, Lee Robinson, but we don't have any. But the rest of the people are all from the community. No, thank you. Just set it back down. Thank you. Merle Bassett did most of the paperwork for us, including the filing. Did most of it pro bono. In fact, all of it, really. Which we were really grateful for, setting up the tax status and all that stuff, going on all the forms for the Uncle Sam as well as for the Illinois Department of Revenue. Right now, of course, we do have all of that. We have 401c3 status, 501c3 status, I'm sorry, from the IRS, and as well as approval as a not-for-profit corporation with the state of Illinois. We started to compile wish lists. Some of the wish lists you can see in the brochure, and I know it's a little dim in here right now, but inside the brochure, and I'm going to put it up here on the board in a second, you can see some of the wish list things that are involved. Almost all these things on the wish lists in the brochure and that we've talked about as a foundation board are big ticket items. Things that, like I said a second ago, don't really fall under the normal budgetary process. We just don't have the money and resources for those kinds of things like we wish we did. And then we produced these brochures through the work of Wood River Printing. We got a great looking brochure. We ordered about 3,400 of these and only had to pay $500, which was a bargain. And we were able to distribute these. We sent out a mass mailing. I think that's my next slide. No. We sent out a mass mailing of all these to people on our alumni lists, and we've managed to get quite a few names on alumni lists from previous classes who've had their class reunions. Unknowingly, when they have their class reunions and we get their alumni list for them, they don't know that we're also putting them on this list to get hit up for money, but oh well. We established a checking account at the Bank of Edwardsville, with the board providing some seed monies just so we could get started with production costs and tax filings and all that. Press release was sent to the Alton Telegraph, maybe you've seen that one. And these brochures were printed and mass mailed. We mailed out about 2,500 of these. this summer. Bob Caston, who I'm assuming most of you know Bob. Bob was our former principal. His daughter, Lee Robinson, is our principal now. Bob is one of the great historians of the high school. Bob knows and has records and things going way back, and not to mention all these alumni lists. So Bob, over the years, has been leading alumni tours of our campus. Every time somebody has a class reunion, Bob would ask them for their names and lists, not knowing this was going to come down the road, but just having them as a kind of a base, a database. And so, like I said, we used those lists for Bob Caston, we massaged them a little bit, and we came up with that first blast of 2,500 brochures. Those are our first donors. I don't know if they get a door prize or anything, but those were the first people we got checks from almost within about 3-4 days after the brochures went out by mail. Were those two ladies there. To date, we have 31 individual donors and also 2 classes. And we've already had the donations totaling $13,800 in just 4 months. Now, not all that money can go directly for unrestricted purposes, which I'm going to explain in a second. One of the purposes of our foundation is to allow people who want to set up scholarships for our kids to be able to have a 501c3 way of giving, tax-deductible way of giving. So one of the determinations in our bylaws and things that we decided a long time ago was that if people want to use the foundation as a vehicle for giving scholarships to kids, that would be okay with us. And we've got 2 of them right now. As you can see, the Elmer and Eunice St. Peter Scholarship, that was an original account of $5,000, which they are planning on increasing as the years go by. And every year they give out a $1,000 scholarship to one of our students. Last year's recipient, Alex Ennis, who is a student down at Missouri School of Science and Technology, which used to be UM Rollin, of course. And of course that will continue. We also have a nursing scholarship. Henry and Dolores Studnicki, Henry of course the former superintendent at our school district, they set up a memorial scholarship to study nursing, because Dolores is a nurse and all that. And they had an interest, and they set it up in memory of their son, Dale. We're also on matching lists. We'd like to be on more, and if you know of a corporation that has such a program that does a 50-50 match or a 1-to-1 match or whatever of donations, we'd be glad to talk to them and send them our information. Right now we've had solicitations from Boeing and Kohl's department store. And of course, like I said, we hope to add a lot more. And these, if you're not aware of this, some of these foundations from Boeing and Kohl's will actually match dollar for dollar what other people, their own employees, will bring in. And they like us because, like I said, we're tax exempt. Right now, our foundation, our board met just recently, within the last month and a half, and the first things we're planning on doing are doing some other fundraisers in addition to the direct giving. We haven't nailed all that down completely yet, but that's what we're going to be working on in the future. Besides the normal giving and the things we've had so far, or the later on, hopefully, giving through bequests and estates, things like that. They also authorized the officers, of which I am one, to go ahead and start spending money. One of the reasons we're doing this is that if people give to a foundation or any sort of a charitable activity, naturally they like to see something tangible for their efforts. They want to see how my money is being spent. And so it was the determination of the foundation board of directors, like I said, about a month and a half ago, which told us to say, let's put the money in the hand of kids and technology. We're exploring various things right now. Probably where we may settle, we're either going to do either more these kind of smart board things, except it's not really a smart board, it's a projector that works with the computer as a smart board. or more likely what we're probably going to do is to purchase more iPads, like this thing here that I'm using. Now that's my own personal one, to purchase. We've already got about 30 in the school right now, and with that kind of money we have already, even without the scholarships added into it, we have enough money to probably purchase at least 13 to 14 iPads, in addition to the 30 that we have already for student use. Those will purchase with grants. Here's our wish list, kind of the same thing that you see in the brochure. Anybody know what a one-to-one computing program is? You know what I'm talking about? The big wave in schools right now is to get away from using from computer labs to an actual thing where a kid has a computer or a tablet or a notebook or netbook, one of those types of devices, and then they can go and use that at home, at school, wherever. And the school buys it for them just like they would buy textbooks. The kid usually, in most of those cases, has to come up with an insurance policy or something if they decide to take it home. And, the Thalto Middle School, Trumpy Middle School, has a program like that. We're probably not looking at something that extravagant eventually. We may be looking at, as a school district, maybe something like the tablets, like the iPads, which are obviously much cheaper, or something like that. But that's one of the wish lists that we'd like to maybe use foundation money for. This is in the future, of course. Auditorium and gym. Our stage curtains are pretty woebegone. If you've ever been to our gym or auditorium, we try to stitch them up and do things the best we can. Those stage curtains, if you have any idea how heavy and the fire-resistant qualities of those things, they are really expensive. They're almost impossible to take down and clean. It's not like, you know, taking your shower curtain and throwing it in the washer. I mean, these things are huge and just unbelievably heavy. And they've been the original stage curtains, at least the one in the Memorial Gym we think is the original one. And that gym is 60 years old, so I kind of fell. Fitness equipment for PE or athletics, that's another wish list. Our campus, as you've probably heard when we dismiss school early sometimes in late August, is not air conditioned. We have certain parts of the buildings that are air conditioned, the newer wings, things like that, cafeteria, auditorium, common areas. But the classrooms in the east building, south building, and the main building, most of them are not air conditioned. And that might be something kind of a long-range goal for a foundation. We'd have to raise a lot of money, though, of course, to get to that point. Smart boards, I mentioned, that's a piece of technology for kids. Band instruments. Band instruments are getting, you know, as Dave could tell you, band instruments are very expensive. And some of the instruments are so expensive, the school usually buys them. We're not talking about the average clarinet or trumpet, which are costly enough. I mean, a good, right, Josh, a good professional trumpet is probably around $1,000 to $1,500 at least. But we're talking about the bari saxes, the tubas, the drums, things like that, amplifiers. Elevator for the East Building. We have several students who are in wheelchairs, and because of that, because the East Building is not equipped with any sort of a lift device to get them up to the second floor, we have to do a lot of creative scheduling and scrambling to make sure those students stay on the first floor. Sometimes teachers have to move classrooms and, you know, move their classes to another room other than where they normally are. It would be nice for access someday to have maybe not a full-fledged elevator, but maybe one of those mechanical lifts like we have in the main building. Upgrading the computer network, even though we might go to one-on-one someday with every student having their own tablet or something like that, you're still going to need a greater Wi-Fi presence around the school. Greater Wi-Fi, not just number of routers, but a more robust network to handle that kind of traffic. And also to enhance our security camera system. Right now we have 18 cameras around campus. There are some areas where we'd like to have some more and to expand that. That might be something also that the foundation board might consider. Any of you have been to our football games, you know our public restrooms are not very nice. it's something that sticks on our craw and we'd like to improve. We did get a donation of $870 towards this particular purpose from the class of 1961. We're not going to be able to do much with that, in a big way, but at least that kind of addresses that concern of people. If you've ever been to our football games, you will notice if you want to use the restroom, probably your best bet is to use one of the portable potties we got out there. And then concession stand improvements. So we've already done some of that already on our own, just with regular district funds, but that was a wish list item that came from the staff. Does anybody have any questions about our foundation? I'd be glad to talk about how to give or kinds of things we're looking at besides what I've already talked about.